Neha Collins zipped up her suitcase with a mixture of excitement and guilt twisting in her stomach. The Las Vegas girls' trip had been planned for months, a chance to escape the mundane rhythm of her 7-year marriage to Ethan. She glanced at her husband in the doorway, his warm brown eyes watching her with that patient acceptance she'd grown too comfortable with. "You'll have fun," Ethan said softly, stepping closer. "You deserve a break." She forced a smile, ignoring the hollow ache in her chest. When had they stopped really talking? When had his gentle nature started feeling like indifference instead of comfort? Vegas hit like a sensory explosion, neon lights, pulsing music, and the intoxicating freedom of anonymity. Her friends dragged her through casinos and clubs, champagne flowing freely. By the third night, exhaustion and alcohol had dulled her judgment. His name was Cameron Blake, a hedge fund manager with devastating blue eyes and a confidence that made her feel seen in ways she'd forgotten existed. At the hotel bar, his attention felt like sunlight after years of shadow. "Your husband's a lucky man," Cameron murmured, his fingers brushing her wrist. "He doesn't see me anymore," Neha heard herself say, the words bitter and raw. The kiss happened in the elevator. Her hotel room became a blur of desperate touches and whispered confessions. Cameron's hands traced her curves with an urgency Ethan's hadn't shown in years. She arched against him as he pressed her against the window overlooking the glittering strip, the city lights reflecting in the glass like scattered diamonds. "You're incredible," he breathed against her neck, and for those stolen hours, she believed it. Afterward, alone in the tangled sheets, reality crashed down. What had she done? Cameron left before dawn with a casual kiss and a business card she immediately threw away. On the flight home, Neha convinced herself it meant nothing, a mistake, a moment of weakness that would stay buried in Vegas where it belonged. Ethan picked her up from the airport with flowers, white roses, her favorites, and she kissed him with guilty fervor, desperately trying to erase Cameron's taste from her lips. "I missed you," Ethan said simply. "I missed you too," she lied, the words ash in her mouth. 3 weeks passed in suffocating normalcy. Neha threw herself into being the perfect wife, cooking Ethan's favorite meals, initiating intimacy with forced enthusiasm, laughing too loudly at his gentle jokes. Guilt wrapped around her like barbed wire, tightening with every loving gesture he offered. She didn't notice Ethan growing quieter, more observant. The truth arrived on a Tuesday evening through a Facebook message from Tara, one of her Vegas trip friends. Ethan was checking Neha's laptop for a recipe when the notification popped up. "Girl, did you ever tell Ethan about Cameron? I keep thinking about that night, lol." His blood turned to ice. Ethan stared at the screen, the words rearranging his entire reality. His hands trembled as he scrolled through Neha's messages, finding the full confession she'd shared with Tara in a moment of misguided honesty. Every detail, every touch, every lie. When Neha came home from work, she found Ethan sitting in the darkened living room, her laptop open before him. "Ethan?" Her voice cracked. "Who's Cameron?" His tone was eerily calm, devoid of the emotion she expected. The color drained from her face. I can explain." "Don't." He held up a hand, finally meeting her eyes. The devastation there made her knees weak. "I read everything. I know exactly what happened in Vegas." Neha's carefully constructed walls shattered. "It was a mistake. One night of stupidity. It meant nothing." "It meant everything." Ethan stood slowly, his 6-foot frame somehow seeming taller, more substantial than she remembered. "It meant you chose to betray 7 years of trust. It meant I wasn't enough." "You're twisting this." "Am I?" His laugh was hollow. "You said I don't see you anymore. Maybe you're right, because the woman I married wouldn't have done this." She reached for him, desperate. "Ethan, please, we can fix this. Counseling, whatever you need." He stepped back, her touch landing in empty air. "What I need is honesty, respect, and a partner who doesn't fuck strangers when life gets routine. You gave me none of those things." The clinical accuracy of his words cut deeper than screaming ever could. "Where are you going?" Neha's voice rose to panic as he grabbed his keys. "Away from you." The door closed with quiet finality, leaving her alone in the wreckage of her choices. Ethan didn't return that night, or the next. He checked into a modest hotel and sat in the darkness, letting the pain wash over him in waves. But beneath the hurt, something harder crystallized: determination. He'd spent 7 years being the gentle, accommodating husband. Where had it gotten him? Taken for granted, betrayed, invisible. No more. The next morning, Ethan contacted a divorce attorney, the best in the city. Within days, separation papers were filed, clean and merciless. He didn't seek revenge through cruelty or public humiliation. Instead, he chose something far more powerful: complete and utter self-reconstruction. He joined the CrossFit gym he'd always been too busy for. The physical pain felt cleansing, and his body responded quickly, muscles emerging from years of soft living. He updated his wardrobe with help from his younger sister, trading khakis for well-fitted jeans and button-downs that highlighted his improving physique. At work, freed from the emotional drain of a dying marriage, Ethan threw himself into the architectural project he'd been half-heartedly managing. His designs suddenly had boldness, creativity, the passion he'd suppressed for years. His boss noticed. A promotion followed, then a lead position on the firm's most prestigious project. Neha's calls were unanswered. Her texts, ranging from desperate apologies to angry accusations, received only one response: "All communication should go through my attorney." When Neha showed up at his hotel, she barely recognized the man who answered the door. Ethan's shoulders were broader, his jaw sharper, his eyes carrying a confidence that made her breath catch. "You look different," she whispered. "I'm becoming who I should have been all along." His gaze was cool, assessing. "What do you want, Neha?" "I want to talk, really talk. I made a horrible mistake." "You made a choice." He leaned against the doorframe, utterly unmoved by the tears streaming down her face. "Sign the papers, make this easy." "I love you." "You love the security I represented. There's a difference." He straightened. "I deserve someone who loves me enough not to betray me. You deserve whatever you get." He closed the door, leaving her sobbing in the hallway. Inside, Ethan exhaled slowly, the hollow ache in his chest gradually filling with something unexpected: pride. 6 months transformed Ethan completely. The separation finalized quietly, dividing assets with business-like efficiency. Neha kept the house. Ethan didn't want the memories. He bought a sleek downtown loft with floor-to-ceiling windows, filling it with modern furniture and the artwork he'd always admired but never purchased. His social circle expanded. Old friendships neglected during marriage were rekindled. New colleagues invited him to gallery openings and rooftop bars. For the first time in years, Ethan felt seen, truly seen, by the world around him. He met Lena Morales at a charity architecture gala. She was a structural engineer with warm hazel eyes, an infectious laugh, and absolutely no patience for dishonesty. "I'm divorced," Ethan told her over wine, deciding immediately that this woman deserved complete transparency. "My ex-wife cheated. It destroyed me, but it also freed me." Lena steadied him carefully. "Are you still angry?" "Sometimes, but mostly I'm grateful. I spent years shrinking myself to fit her needs, and she still wanted something else. Now I know what I won't accept." "And what do you want?" Lena's directness was refreshing. "Honesty, partnership, someone who chooses me every day, even when it's hard." He met her gaze steadily. "Someone who sees me." Lena smiled. "I think I can do that."
Their relationship grew slowly, deliberately. Lena challenged him intellectually, matched his newfound confidence with her own, and created a space where vulnerability meant strength, not weakness. When they made love for the first time, it was achingly different from the mechanical intimacy his marriage had become. Lena's hands mapped his body with genuine curiosity, her sighs authentic and unguarded. "You're beautiful," she whispered afterward, fingers tracing the muscles he'd worked so hard to build. "So are you," he breathed, realizing he meant it in ways that transcended physical attraction. Meanwhile, Neha watched from the periphery of social media. Photos of Ethan at gallery openings, looking sophisticated and happy. Vacation pictures with Lena, hiking, laughing, clearly in love. The man she'd taken for granted had become someone extraordinary, and she'd lost him through her own selfishness. Regret was a bitter companion.
Neha's attempts to move on failed spectacularly. The dating apps showed her exactly what she'd become, another divorced woman with baggage and regret. The men she met paled compared to Ethan, the Ethan she lost, who now existed only in her memories and painful social media glimpses. She drove past his loft one evening, seeing warm light spilling from the windows. Through the glass, she caught sight of him and Lena cucking together, laughing, their easy intimacy like a knife between her ribs. Later that week, she encountered them at a restaurant. Ethan looked magnificent in a charcoal suit, Lena stunning in emerald green. When their eyes met across the dining room, Neha saw only polite indifference where love had once lived. She approached their table against her better judgment. "Ethan, could we talk?" He glanced at Lena, who squeezed his hand encouragingly before excusing herself gracefully. "What do you want, Neha?" "No hostility, just genuine curiosity." "I want to apologize. Really apologize. I destroyed something precious because I was selfish and stupid and—" Her voice broke. "I see what I lost now. You became everything I needed, but only after I threw you away." Ethan's expression softened slightly, but not with rekindled affection, with pity. "I forgive you. Not for you, but for me. Carrying anger was poisoning my happiness. Do you ever think about us? About what we had?" "Sometimes, but mostly I think about what we didn't have. Real intimacy, honest communication, mutual respect. You taught me what I won't settle for again." "You make you happy." It wasn't a question. "She does. Lena sees me, chooses me, and values what we're building together. She's everything I needed but didn't know to ask for." Neha nodded through tears. "I'm glad. You deserve that." "I do," he agreed simply, "and so do you. But you'll never find it until you figure out why you sabotaged what you had." As Lena returned, sliding seamlessly into the space beside Ethan with natural ease, Neha understood the final truth. Revenge wasn't always loud or cruel. Sometimes it was watching someone bloom into their best self, without you. Ethan Collins had won not by destroying her, but by saving himself. He'd transformed betrayal into fuel for becoming the man he was always meant to be. And in finding Lena, he'd discovered that losing the wrong love opens doors to the right one. As Neha walked away, she finally understood. The best revenge wasn't about making someone suffer. It was about refusing to let their actions diminish your worth and having the courage to build something better from the ruins. Ethan squeezed Lena's hand, his heart full of peace. The past no longer haunted him. The future glowed with possibility. And that was the truest victory of all.